Okay, hi, it is Gigi again. I am here bugging you guys today because I have a lot that I want to share. I have been waiting to get my hair done so I can make a video, so I'm excited to give you guys more information. So today I want to start by giving you the steps to starting your nonprofit. I did make a long video in the past explaining how to start your nonprofit in detail, but today I just want to give you a short condensed version, especially for all the new people in our group. Welcome, so we can go ahead and get you guys on the roll, because a lot of people are coming in the group and they're saying they're a little bit confused and they don't know where to start. So this is where you're going to start. The very first thing you're going to do is you're going to choose a business name. So your business name must be unique to your state. So what you can do to see if there's anyone else who has your business name is you can type into Google SOS, which is Secretary of State, and then put the state in. So if you are in Maryland, then you should say SOS Maryland Business Search. So once you do that, you're going to actually see a list of list of websites, and you should look for the one that says .gov. There will be .coms, there will be all types of websites there. Sometimes they're like scam websites, sometimes they're trying to sell you something, so you really want to make sure you're looking for the .gov at all times when you're doing legal paperwork. You want to make sure you're looking for a .gov or some type of official signature, so you're making sure that you're in the right place. Once you get to the .gov Secretary of State website, you're going to go ahead and do a search to see if anyone else has the name for your nonprofit. So if you don't see anyone else with the same name, then you can use that name for your nonprofit. I usually do also recommend to just check online. Like if you want your name to be for your nonprofit Children's Outreach, I would just type in, even if someone didn't incorporate it legally, I would still just go in and say www.children'soutreach.com just to see if anyone else has that website. If they do, then maybe you have to be children'soutreachinc.com. But you just want to make sure that people aren't getting confused when you're trying to find your website. You don't want to be associated with someone who is just not following the mission and vision and path that you have, because there's all types of things on the internet. So you just want to make sure that when you're looking for the availability of a name, you're making sure that you're not associating yourself with something that doesn't represent your nonprofit, unconsciously, of course. So once you've got the name down, the second thing you are going to do is you're going to file your articles of incorporation with the state. Every state has a different price. I have seen as low as $25. I believe the highest I have seen, don't quote me, but I believe the highest I have seen is $170, and I think that was Georgia. And that also included some extra filings that they require as well. So there are sometimes extra filings that you have to do when you file your articles of incorporation. It just depends on your state, but you just need to know that the articles will include the basics of your nonprofit. So you're going to actually send paperwork to the state letting them know, hey, I want to start a nonprofit, and here's the information that you need to know about it. So that will include the basics, like the name of your nonprofit. Once you submit your articles, your name is now confirmed with the state, so no one else can take it. So when they go and search your name, they say, oh, someone else has that nonprofit name or that business name in general, so I can't have that. So once you file your articles, your name is locked in. Registered agent information. So your registered agent is the person who is going to accept your legal mail. So some states that can be you, and some states that has to be a separate business, like incorporate.com, or you could just say registered agent services in your state. Type that in Google and you'll find a million options. So the cheaper route is always to make yourself the registered agent, but you just would have to know for sure that that's legal in your state. And then it's going to ask for the address of your business. If you don't have an office yet, you would just use your home address. But I do recommend getting an office as soon as possible, because a lot of the information that you give is actually public information. Even with a for-profit, a lot of the information that you put on your applications is public information, so someone can go and find your name and your address and some type of information that you might not want everyone to know. So the most important thing to know is that you have to be careful when you're filing your articles. I recommend getting a business mentor, or at least someone who has some type of experience, to look over your paperwork, because there is actually some information that is not provided. So sometimes you'll go on and you'll see that they have these easy online forms and you can just go in and fill out the information and send it in, but there's actually additional language that sometimes needs to be added to your articles, so that you can qualify for 501c3 status, which is what we're going to talk about in a little bit. So otherwise, now you might get approved. So you may get approved for your incorporation by the state, but then you'll get denied when you file for your 501c3, which is your tax exempt status with the IRS. Some states do have handbooks for nonprofits, so you can check nonprofit handbook for your state, or you can call your Secretary of State and ask what they require from you so that you can be prepared. But they don't give too much information. They try to keep it as brief as possible, and it is hard to give specific information because every vision is different. Every mission is different. And when you have different visions and different missions and different states, for instance, when it comes to even a Facebook group like a nonprofit for newbies, there are so many different answers to one question. So we have to be careful when we're using information that is meant for someone else and trying to duplicate that for ourselves, for our nonprofit, because sometimes it's not the right answer for you. So of course, that's why I say try to get a mentor if you can, but by and large, just really paying attention and making sure that you are actually doing what you're supposed to do, so you're not wasting money by filing your articles and not getting approved. So sometimes this fourth step is required before you file your articles. Sometimes you can do it after. So that would be the board of directors. Your board of directors, usually you do not have to put that on your nonprofit articles of incorporation, but some states, they do ask for it. Most likely you are the founder, so I do recommend, if you can, to put yourself down as the founder and CEO. That will actually put you in a position, you won't be on the board of directors, so you won't get to vote, but that will put you in a position where you can actually work for your nonprofit and make a salary. So that is an option that I recommend when starting your nonprofit. There are paid positions, of course, which is the CEO, executive director, the CFO, chief financial officer, COO, chief operational officer, program directors. There are a lot of paid positions, but for the most part, when you're starting off, you should try to do as much as you can and try to actually get a lot of volunteers. You don't want to put a lot of people on payroll to begin with, because your money might not be consistent and you don't want to owe anybody, especially as a nonprofit. That's whack. So you don't want to owe anybody or have a bad reputation when you're first starting out. So if you can get volunteers or people who understand, hey, this is a nonprofit, but I have this mission, I have this vision, and we really need support. I know, like, certain things, it might be hard for someone to really do for free. So if you need someone to run an entire program, maybe you should say, hey, I'll pay you a stipend of $100 a day if you can come in on Mondays and Wednesdays. So, you don't have to put everyone on payroll to start, but sometimes it's good to ask for help and look for a lot of volunteers. When you're doing your board of directors, those are like the board president, the board treasurer, and the board secretary. So the board president is the person who would supervise the CEO. They would provide the guidance and support for your organization. So the board president is actually technically on a higher level than the CEO, because the CEO is a paid position, so you actually work for the nonprofit. The board is an unpaid position, but they are in charge of making sure that the nonprofit is compliant and doing what they're supposed to do. So the secretary would be the person who does the administrative support and attends and records the board meetings. So just like a secretary in office, a board secretary would just be the person who keeps really good records. And the treasurer is actually the person who would manage the cash flow for your organization. So of course, as a CEO, you're going to be doing the day-to-day, paying stipends, giving clients checks for any services that they need help with, rent, or they need their ID or whatever you need to provide to them. You would be in charge of that day to day. But overall, when the bank statements come in, both you and the treasurer need to review the bank statement to make sure that when you receive free money, that money was spent how it needs to be spent legally. So you would both be held accountable if that money was not used properly. And like I said, board positions are volunteer positions. They do not get paid. However, if you have someone, for example, you have a treasurer who also wants to be a program director, usually that is okay. So you can actually have them run your food bank program and get paid for that, because that takes time and effort and a lot of paying attention. So you need someone who's going to be serious about the position. So if they're going to run the food bank, that's okay. You can pay them a stipend for that. But when it comes to their board position, they do not get paid just to be the secretary, the treasurer, whatever they're doing. The IRS does require those 3 board members. Your state may require less, but for the most part, you should try to keep the 3 board members an odd number. You usually don't want to do even numbers because that could mess up when it comes to voting, but try to stick with an odd number if you can. And avoid adding family members, because of course, if you have a nonprofit and you're getting a lot of free money, the IRS doesn't want to think that you could be influenced by other family members on your board, and they're not actually paying attention to how you're using money. So this is not a get rich quick scam type of business. If you want to get rich quick, maybe try a for-profit. But if you're serious about taking in money, free money, to help other people and paying yourself a salary, that is okay. But you just have to make sure you're monitoring the money based on the regulations that were put in place for the money you received from the person you received it from, or the foundation, or the government company, government, what was the word for that? Government organization, wherever you receive the money from. So the 5th thing you would need to do is you would actually need to get your internal policies together. So that is the bylaws and the conflict of interest policy. The bylaws are the rules under which the corporation will operate, and the conflict of interest policy is actually the policy that prevents directors, so board of directors, with conflicts from participating in the discussions. So they wouldn't be reporting or voting on any issue where there is a perceived or real conflict. So for example, if you guys are ready, you got your money, and you're ready to go and get some office space, your secretary might actually have some office space available for you to rent from. However, they cannot vote because, of course, they are going to vote, yes, I want you to give me that grant money, so I can go ahead and let you move in your nonprofit into my building. So that would be a conflict of interest. They wouldn't be able to vote on that. So those are actually the internal policies, the 2 that you want to have in place and have all of the board of directors sign, so they understand their responsibilities, the rules under which the corporation will operate, and that they are not allowed to vote in a conflict of interest. The 6th thing you're going to want to do, hopefully you've got your bylaws and your conflict of interest together, you've created your board member list, and now you've got your articles back from the state. So yes, your articles have been confirmed by the state, and now you need to go and apply for your EIN number. That is from the IRS. You will use your EIN number to open a bank account, if you need to apply for a business license, and if you need to even file tax returns by mail. There are so many reasons why you must have an EIN number. But not to worry, it is easy to get your EIN. You'll just go onto irs.gov and you can get your EIN instantly. Typically, they do have office hours, so it would have to be Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. is when you can get your EIN online. Otherwise, there are alternatives, I believe, to do it during like mail, file by mail, but I would just recommend doing it within business hours so you can get it immediately. And once you have your EIN, it is time to apply for your 501c3. So your 501c3 is your IRS application. It is a 1023 application, and that is what gives you actually tax exempt status with the IRS and allows you to actually make donations that were given to you tax deductible. So if someone wants to give you a donation, it would be tax deductible because you are a 501c3. There are two different applications for the 1023. There is a 1023, which is $650, and it takes between 2 and 12 months for that to be confirmed. And then there is a 1023 EZ. And the 1023 EZ is thebomb.com. It is $275 to file, and usually you'll get it back in 30 days or less. So that is what those are what your options are. However, you have to do what's called a 1023 EZ worksheet to check and see which application you are eligible for. So most new nonprofits are eligible. Some of the questions that they ask you is, do you project that your annual gross receipts will exceed $50,000 in the next 3 years? If you don't have any written notice of someone saying, hey, we're going to give you $50,000 in the next 3 years, then you can't project that because you don't know what you're going to get. And then it asks you if you have, I believe, 200, it could be, I think it's either 250 or 500,000, some crazy number in assets already for your nonprofit. They're not talking about your house. They're talking about for your nonprofit, do you have that much value in assets? So if you're just starting out with your nonprofit, most likely you don't, but you do have to answer the questions honestly, and that would determine, as well as I think there's 30 questions in total that would determine whether or not you're eligible for the 1023 or the 1023 EZ streamline application. And that is it. Once you get accepted for your 1023, you are on the ball. You are now officially a 501c3 nonprofit organization. I just want to give you a quick tip, and that is compliance, because it's very important. You will need to file every year. Even if you don't accept any grant money, you will need to file a 990. Your 990 is due on May 15th of every year, and it's basically reporting how much money you did or did not receive. So you do need to file that every year. If you miss it after 3 years, your 501c3 status will be revoked, and you will actually have to reapply. So that is one thing you want to avoid. But after you get your 501c3 status, you're ready for funds research, you're ready for grant writing prep, you are ready for grant writing, you are ready to get your nonprofit on a roll. You need to start looking at fundraisers. You need to start going ahead and getting your vibe out, letting people know about your nonprofit. There are so many things that you need to do to put your nonprofit out there. So even if you don't have the money to file your application right away, you should definitely get started looking at what programs and services you're going to provide, what your budget would be, how much it would cost for you to provide those services. If you need help, where you're going to find volunteers, what kind of volunteers do you need help with? Do you need, like, if you have an organization where you're going to be helping with psychological issues, you might need a paid professional for that. So you need to have all that in mind and start really getting a good idea of what your plan is and how you are going to put it into action. And of course, like I said, we do have our mentorship available if you want somebody to help you with that. but I believe in you. I know you guys are smart, you're determined, you are passionate. So if you are passionate about your nonprofit, you will be able to be pushed to the next level because you have that passion. If you think this is a get rich quick scheme, I've been told it's not. So, there are people who make $500,000 a year in their nonprofit, but believe they're working for that money. So they are putting in the hours, they are monitoring huge assets. Don't think small. Your nonprofit can have a building, your nonprofit can have transitional housing, your nonprofit can have a food bank. You don't have to think small, but you do have to think realistic. So understanding that it's not going to be easy, because just like any other business, there are going to be times when the money is not consistent. There are going to be times when you are not sure if you should pay yourself or you should pay for your client to provide services, to receive services, excuse me. So of course you're probably going to want to help your client, because that's the purpose of your nonprofit. So sometimes you won't get paid as much as your salary was set at. So those are things you do have to understand when you start a nonprofit, but overall it is a rewarding experience. And some people like me, I'm sick of working for someone else and not helping people, because that's what I do all day, every day. Is I want to help people. I want to say yes. I want to be able to say yes to anybody who asks me for help, because I can't do it on my own. But I know if I can get a nonprofit started and start collecting grant money, start doing fundraisers, start raising money. I'm very creative. I know you can be very creative, and there are plenty of ways to be successful as a nonprofit. So you don't have to feel negative, but you just have to be realistic, and be excited. Be excited, because if you go ahead and take these steps, you have started the first step on your journey towards doing what makes you happy. So I'm excited for you. I'm done with my little lecture, but if you guys have any questions, please drop it in the comments, and I'd be happy to go under there and answer any questions you may have. And you guys have a happy day. Take care.